It has finally happened. The Minnesota Vikings and J.J. McCarthy have agreed to a contract before training camp has started. Last week, I went out on the limb and said, you know what? I ain't worried. J.J. McCarthy, he lives, breathes, and dies football. And the optics surrounding a holdout before training camp starts would look absolutely terrible if he decided to do that. Terrible towards the organization that made this investment in drafting him. The first quarterback ever taken in Minnesota Vikings history, the top 10 of the NFL draft. And to the teammates. Players would lose instant respect for a player that hasn't played a single down and is already demanding this, and this, especially coming off the heels of Justin Jefferson silently negotiating a contract extension with the Minnesota Vikings organization. Looking like no diva. Looking like a guy that's going to play all day, every day, regardless of a contract situation. And he did that. And he signed his deal. So there were no ifs, ands, or buts. There were no question marks. There was no doubt. There was no worry. I went on this podcast and guaranteed that J.J. McCarthy would not hold out of training camp. I want you to listen carefully and watch carefully, because I was just listening to some Alec Lewis stuff, and he is the reporter via The Athletic for the Minnesota Vikings, and he just came out with the podcast. And he was saying he wasn't concerned. Alec Lewis and I were on the same page. We were on the same page, page 14. And the page that we were on was a page of understanding and reading the situation. He was saying that there's a lot of antsy Minnesota Vikings fans because this contract wasn't done yet. And the Minnesota Vikings have the only quarterback, or had the only quarterback left that hadn't signed a contract situation yet with his new team. So Minnesota Vikings fans are going to do what Minnesota Vikings fans do, and NFL fans are going to do what NFL fans do, and they are going to panic over the littlest, most obvious thing, because there was no other scenario where this contract did not get done before training camp started. And here we go. J.J. McCarthy. Let me read you the details of this contract. A 4-year, fully guaranteed contract worth $21.85 million that includes a $12.71 million signing bonus and a 5th-year team option. Now, the discussion with this contract situation was that J.J. McCarthy wanted the entire signing bonus up front. And the Minnesota Vikings and Kwesi were playing hardball on that. They didn't want to do it. And they shouldn't want to do that. They've never done it in franchise history. They played hardball. J.J. McCarthy, it would appear, doesn't say in the contract situation, it doesn't say that he didn't get it all up front, but it appears that he did not get it all up front. And they met somewhere in the middle, and they made the contract situation work. So J.J. McCarthy has officially signed his rookie contract with the Minnesota Vikings, and all the fans that were panicking, that were worried, that were antsy, that were scared, that were, classic Minnesota Vikings can't sign their rookie contract, those kind of fans that had that attitude, fear no more. Or if you watched the Minnesota Tim podcast, you didn't have to have any fear at all because I laid out exactly what was going to happen. And guess what? What I laid out is exactly what happened. J.J. McCarthy is secured as the long-term quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. It's like there was no other choice. Either you held out a day, okay, big deal. Why would you do that? No, it was never going to happen. All right. Contact Hokeland Farm at 952-491-1541 for the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef.
With no regard for human life.
952-491-1541. Tell them you heard about Hokeland Farm on the Minnesota Tim podcast and get 20% off your first order by mentioning the Minnesota Tim podcast. Thank you, everyone, for making this podcast a part of your day.